Hey everyone, this is Libertarian Black Man. As of yesterday morning, part of our federal government has shut down, and it has shut down over one of the most unimportant issues facing us, which is a wall to be built on the southern border to keep out those who have not gone through the legal channels to immigrate to the United States. While that is an issue that we should definitely tackle, there is a far more important issue that threatens not just our standard of living, but the standard of living of future generations, and that is the debt situation of the United States. President Trump said he was willing to shut down the U.S. government over border wall funding, and it was a promise that he actually kept. The U.S. government did shut down Saturday morning over the issue of not getting enough funding for this wall he wants to build, which would be billions of dollars that would need to be spent on it. The debt situation of our country is far worse, so much so that our country is insolvent. And I'm going to show you the numbers as to why this is true. As of 2018, household debt hit a record high of $13.5 trillion. As of 2018, we have corporations that have racked up $9 trillion. As of 2018, local governments, your cities and towns across the country, have racked up about $2 trillion in debt. State governments also racked up just over $1 trillion in debt as of this year. The national debt, which is the federal government, racked up over almost $22 trillion, and we're adding hundreds of thousands of dollars every few seconds. What is not included in the national debt numbers, however, is the unfunded liabilities from two of America's most popular programs, Social Security and Medicare. And the Social Security trustees have said that the numbers show that over the next 75 years, Social Security is going to have to come up with $13.2 trillion. By the way, this is a number that is constantly going up. It used to only be $9 trillion, then it went to $11 trillion, and then it went to $13 trillion during the course of the last decade. So $13.2 trillion Social Security has promised to pay over the next 75 years that it does not have coming in. For Medicare, the situation is far worse. Over the next 75 years, it's going to have to come up with more than $37 trillion, more like $38 trillion. So you're taking Social Security and Medicare together, and that's more than $50 trillion of liabilities that we owe to the people that we've promised that we don't have coming in. And this is not factored into the national debt numbers. So this is on top of the $21 trillion, $21.8 trillion of federal debt that's already been racked up. That is not including Medicare and Social Security liabilities. If you add up all the numbers that I gave you as far as household debt, state and local government debt, federal debt, and the corporate debt and liabilities of Social Security and Medicare, you get $98 trillion of debt that we owe. And that alone is not what is most important. What's most important is how much money do you have available to pay this debt? And you're going to see how little we have. There is something called a monetary base, which is explained very well by Investopedia, which says that the monetary base is the total amount of currency that is either in general circulation in the hands of the public or in the commercial bank deposits held at the central bank's reserve. This measure of the money supply typically only includes most liquid currencies. So what this means is if you add up all of the actual paper bills and metal coins in U.S. Currency, if you add up all the actual physical cash that we have, that's the monetary base that sits in the checking accounts and savings accounts of the central bank and the depository institutions that you have an account at, like J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, PNC, or wherever you have your accounts at. If you add all the cash up, that is the monetary base. That's basically all the money that exists in the country. As of 2016, 2 years ago, we had a monetary base of $3.9 trillion. Now, this number is actually larger than what it is today, because this is from 2 years ago, June 2016. The monetary base has shrunk because the Federal Reserve has pulled some of the money out of those depository institutions to wind down its quantitative easing program, which was done to try to stimulate the economy out of recession and prevent a depression from happening a decade ago. The monetary base, which you can look at on the St. Louis Federal Reserve's website, which tracks the monetary base of the United States, as you can see right here, we have a spike. We have pretty much a straight line, and then it starts to spike up dramatically because of the financial crisis and the Federal Reserve's attempt to prevent a depression. And the monetary base right around June of 2016 was about $4 trillion, but it has shrunk down to $3.5 trillion because the Fed is trying to raise interest rates, and they're trying to reduce the amount of cash in the banks that was to prevent them from going under. So basically, America has only $3.5 trillion of physical cash in existence in all the bank accounts, at the Fed, at all the member banks, and in circulation to pay $98 trillion of liabilities. To put this another way, the debt to cash ratio is 2,700%, meaning that we have 2,700% as much debt as we do cash to pay it off. Put another way, our economy has only 3.6% of the money it needs to service its creditors. So that spells bankruptcy. There's no other way around it. That's like someone that you loaned money to. Let's say you loaned them $100 and they want to collect $100 from you. And if you were to sell everything that you own, the most that you could get is $3.60 to pay off the $100. So that means you are absolutely dead broke, and our country is in that situation now. So we have no choice but to default. There is no way of paying this debt load off. We have no means of raising taxes enough, no means of cutting government spending enough in order to pay the debts that we have racked up. Most of the money that people think exists in the world does not actually exist. The fractional reserve banking system has created money out of nothing, but it only exists on paper. That's the reason why we're able to rack up so much debt without actually having the cash to pay it, because most of the money that has been circulating is not real. It's money that is written on paper that is not backed up by physical cash, and you can just look at the numbers to see that. So we're in a situation where the only way out of our debt situation is to have a national bankruptcy, to default, and to declare that we just can't honor our obligations. That would mean a depression. That would mean higher unemployment and a lot of businesses going under. Stock market, real estate market would plummet, and you'd have a lot of people losing their jobs. It's unfortunate, but we never should have adopted this policy of allowing banks and the federal government to create money out of nothing and to lend it out and indebt our entire society far beyond what it can ever hope to handle. So we have to default, but we can't just default. We must transition to an economy of low taxes, free markets, and most importantly of all, sound money. Sound money that means you're not going to create fake money out of nothing that only exists on paper. We must require our banks to have 100% reserves for all accounts. We must put our government in back under restriction of how much money it can create. And when we took our money off the gold standard almost 50 years ago, we allowed our government to print as much as it wanted. We allowed our banks, going back hundreds of years, to create money on the spot through the fractional reserve system by lending out money that it does not have and writing it down and just writing it in to accounts from which it took the loans from. This is a corrupt system. This is a system that is inevitably going to fail, and it will fail in spectacular fashion. So there is no way out. We must default and transition to an economy where money cannot be created on the spot. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and Twitter page, Libertarian Black Man. Purchase the book, Say No to Big Government, My Case for Maximum Freedom, where I actually go into detail about how the fractional reserve banking system creates money out of nothing and indebts our society above and beyond what it can pay. I talk about how the gold standard worked and how it protected our money, protected our money's value. I talk about how the government has created a situation where we have no hope but to default our way out of it instead, because of the idea that raising taxes and trying to cut spending is simply futile. We have no means of doing that. So purchase the book. It's available on Amazon.com for $18. Say No to Big Government, My Case for Maximum Freedom. And I hope to see you all in the next video.